Hello.
Mhm.
So Nanette, if you're ready, I'll call the meeting to order.
Yes, Mike Knappich.
Yes.
Um,
So Mike Knappich, the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Springfield Technical
mhm,
Community College, in the chair of the ad hoc committee on the
mhm.
2024-25 presidential evaluation process. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd ask you, Nanette, to take the roll.
Yes, Mike Knappich,
Present.
Will Davila,
Present.
and Betty Esposito.
Present.
Thank you.
Hi, Will.
Mhm.
Hello. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. And you?
Good, good.
Mhm.
So thank you for being here, fellow trustees, and VP Nathanson, thank you for joining us as well for this session. So first of all, I want to thank both you, Betty, and Will, for joining us last week at the commencement ceremonies. That was my first time there, and I think yours as well, Will, but it was a
Yeah.
great
No, I
event.
loved it. Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know there's some additional, I'll do your housekeeping, Nanette. There are several additional, or at least one additional, no, two additional pinning ceremonies coming up. So
Mhm.
just as a reminder, if you're able to make those, but we'll talk more, at least on one of them at our next meeting.
Mhm.
So I don't think this meeting will take that long. I want to do a little bit of a recap on the process. And again, respecting and knowing that Trustee Davila and myself are new to the board, new to the process, and new to the ad hoc committee. Thank Betty for her tenure and for her guidance in this process. But ultimately, again, it's been an interesting journey. We've been talking and gathering data and convening and meeting and listening along many months, and culminating later this month with the official approval by the Board of Trustees of the President's evaluation at our meeting on June 23rd, I believe it is. So as we work our way back to today, as you recall, today was one of two Zoom call oriented sessions for the ad hoc committee. In full disclosure, I'd hoped to have a draft of the final evaluation to you, my fellow members, today, but I will get that to you over the next week or so for some final input, final commentary in context from all of you. What I will ask in a moment, and I'll talk a little bit more to give you a little time to process this, what I'll ask in a few moments is if there was anything new you wanted to add to our deliberative process as we synthesize the information and whatnot. So that's where I will wind up after I say a few more things. So, something you want to add to the process, something as I continue to work on the draft and we continue to work on the draft together over the next several weeks, something that we might want to include in there. So that's one thing. But just recall, as we go back to the beginning of the process, where we laid out what we were going to do as a board of trustees, recognizing again, this is the 9th year of the tenure of Dr. Cook at Springfield Technical Community College. Recollecting the fact that I had said several things from the onset that, I thought that we ought not reinvent the wheel on the evaluation process. There was certainly a process in place that predated myself and the other two new trustees, number one. Number two, the 10th year of the president's tenure signifies a comprehensive evaluation by the Board of Trustees, which is a little more involved and a little larger scope of evaluation and input, and a lot more work, candidly, for the members. So that has always been out there in my mind as something that we will look at very intently through the summer months and into next year, number 3. As well as the fact that I've shared this on a couple of occasions, we've looked at guidance provided by the Department of Higher Education, guidance provided by the Association of Governing Boards for Colleges and Universities. And what we're doing is consistent with that view of how we conduct this evaluation, how we seek input, and how we ultimately present to the campus community the trustee response and reaction writ large to our collective involvement with the president. So to that end, we know we had a trustee survey tool that had been made available. I appreciate the members filling that out, being thoughtful about the last year's interaction, thinking meeting by meeting, engagement by engagement. I asked you all, you two in particular, to survey other members of our trustee board, our colleagues on the board, in a little more intent way to provide some additional feedback, right? A combination of long tenured trustees and those who perhaps new, those trustees dealing with a wide range of responsibilities, from the external, internal lens, from the finance committee lens on ways and means, and from the capital planning and expenditures committee, all of which we were invited to attend, but getting a little more deep down perspective on that. What was that trustees' interaction with the president? How did they feel the leadership style worked within the context of our public mission college, helping to serve the greater Springfield region? So I appreciate the time you all spent on that portion of the exercise. A little more intimate, a little more unplugged, perhaps, than a formal process. The president presented a self-evaluation, as we know, earlier in the year, a fairly lengthy document that detailed from his perspective the leadership that the board last year asked him to look to and to set out and to look toward goals and to look at those items coming out of 2024 they felt were important in the following school year, the one that we've just concluded and will ultimately conclude in a couple of weeks. And we had the chance for Dr. Cook to meet with us, as we know, at our previous meeting where we had a chance to offer additional input. We did ask the vice presidents of the institution to provide feedback to us on the leadership of the president. One of the items that had not previously been done in the process and evaluation in the past. So I want to thank the leadership team for providing that lens for us to consider as part of our work in this. And of course, our previous ad hoc committee meeting, and now this evening's ad hoc committee meeting. So the totality of all of that is a lot of information. On several occasions, I did invite the larger community, the campus community, to email me additional feedback to my STCC email account. And I don't know, Nanette, if you want to put that in the chat while we're talking. I have difficulty typing and talking, believe it or not, at the same time, but that can go in the chat if people do look at the chat, but that's always welcome. So anything that I do receive between now and the next couple of weeks, I'll share fellow trustees with the two of you. But with that, and I don't think we'll need a lot of the time. I'd open it up to either of you, Betty or Will, for any thoughts you might have, any perspectives or any gleanings that you want to share with the group. So in no particular order, happy to listen for a few minutes and interact.
Okay. Betty, do you want to go first or?
So Will.
Okay, I'll go ahead. A few things I'll say. Oh, sorry. Were you gonna go or are you waiting for me?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, all right. First of all, to both of you as the chair and vice chair, I'll start by just thanking you for your leadership because Betty, you've got the experience, and Michael, you definitely hit the ground running with this and made it a lot easier for the rest of us because it is pretty complex here as a new trustee to go through such a detailed process, and next year it's going to be even more detailed. So,
yes.
and to that point, I wonder if it's going to be an official part of the documentation that you're finalizing, that you're working on, to sort of hint that next year will in fact likely be a more comprehensive 360 or whatever we're calling it. So that's one thing that I don't know if it's a suggestion or statement or a question, but I'll put it out there because we have talked about it on a number of occasions. And then the other question that I have is whether or not we are, and I'm coming from the, nonprofit world, and a lot of times evaluations are tied to compensation. I don't know if that's something that we need to comment on in this evaluation, whether we're making a recommendation or not, whether that's even part of our purview. But I just thought I'd mention it because I don't think we've discussed it at all, and it just occurred to me now that maybe that's something that we need to, articulate some sort of recommendation for the board to consider. I know it's not our call; it goes to I believe, to the commissioner, but I don't know if we need to comment on it for them to consider it.
Yeah, well, if you'd allow me, I hate to put you on the spot, VP Nathanson, but would you mind commenting a little bit on that question? Well, I think it is germane, and I think it's we've not talked a lot about it, obviously.
Okay.
So what usually happens in terms of the president's compensation is that the commissioner will determine what the increases are for the presidents, and what the trustees usually do is include, I think it's in the motion, but somewhere, in this process, there's usually a statement that says that, if you're recommending
Yes.
to, provide whatever the increase is that is enabled by the commissioner. So you don't
Okay.
usually come up with a number, but you basically say whatever number the commissioner comes up with, you're supporting that, assuming that you do. So
Okay.
that's kind of how that works. And we can help with the language in the motion that is usually like the standard language for that.
Okay. All right.
Does that
Thank you.
answer your question?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And then the last statement that I'll make is that I know it's early to be thinking about next year's evaluation, but I would make an obvious recommendation just to have it on record that I think we probably should expand this group by at least a couple members for what is, expected to be uh, a more tedious task, a more detailed task next year to do these conversations with multiple stakeholders, and looking at evaluations and interviews and all that stuff. So I just would recommend that we have at least a 5 member committee if we can.
I
Certainly agree with that. I did the last 5-year one. And Nanette, we're provided with specific guidelines on that evaluation, correct? From the State Department of Education or somewhere that says how the steps go in that evaluation.
There are some guidelines included in the DHE guidelines, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Because I know we had a consultant. I want to say there was a consultant in on that. So it wasn't just us. It wasn't just the board
Yeah.
or board members. But yes, there was a consultant.
And that's one of the reasons that I've been, from the beginning of this discussion, really been in favor of doing this, sort of cycle of every 5 years, doing a more intensive one, because we are gonna likely have a consulting expense that's not a normal part of our process, and they will come with their own structure and their own steps to take. So that's going to add to our normal deliberations that we will have to factor in, that there's going to be a little bit of syncing up with whatever it is that this consultant or this organization, whatever we decide to bring in, they're going to have their own way of doing things that we'll have to work with.
Andrea, is that built into the budget that or,
It is. We included money for a consultant in the FY26 budget.
okay.
Good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I'm sorry, Betty. I mean, I am curious also to see how it worked as well 5 years ago. So I'm sure we'll have a chance to kind of look back and see what the consultant arena is. I'm sure we're provided a list of a finite number of consultants to consider who are tasked with this very process. So we'll see what that work product looks like. But I agree on certainly the point of a few more hands make lighter work. And again, because the word comprehensive is in it, it does certainly sound like, and it will be more work for the body and a much broader scope of involvement for various parties. So it's well taken. Benny, anything else? Any other thoughts on your mind about the process or where we go? So I think I said that I would, we'll work on the draft document and then get it to folks, and we can do some trading back and forth, obviously. And then I thank you for putting my email in the account or in the chat box there. So.
I think I guess my 2 cents would be that in looking through each area, how it was broken out, accreditation and governance to fiscal management, et cetera. I think we saw or could read, there were common threads that appeared, and a lot of positive feedback, talking about different things that had happened over the year. And I especially, not surprisingly, Andrea, that concerns with finances and monies, and we don't know what's going where, but I think that came out. But I think that, I mean, overall, I would say, I glad I read it and saw common threads that we were.
Yeah. And I guess I will say this because it's an open forum here. We're discussing. I mean, I do think that the financial stewardship of the institution is in almost a singular category in itself in terms of how stability is brought to an organization. I know we said that at the meeting last time, and I'm sure we'll see it again at our June meeting. But a lot of organizations out there that are in a very different place, and I just unrelated. Well, on a similar note, I know Clark University in Worcester is having some dramatic problems that they just announced here on the Mass Live this afternoon. So again, not to take any of that for granted. So VP Nathanson, thank you again for the leadership that you provide that creates the stability. And to Betty's point, there's a lot happening out there. And I think we may have talked about that earlier, out there that we have no control over, but what we do have control within the stewardship of it, I think helps us to make the decisions and spend the time as we do. So we very much appreciate that. So I've got nothing more to add to this portion of the meeting. So I don't know, Will, I'll give you the last moment, Will or Betty.
I would just say that, and I said it at the last board meeting, that the emerging themes for me, I like to see where things are clustering, and the message, it seems pretty clear that for the most part, Dr. Cook's leadership is appreciated. It's effective. The financial piece is part of that, but so are a lot of the other complex parts of his job. And for the most part, he's, seems like folks feel he's on the right track, and the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So I would tend to agree so far that I see things moving in the right direction. I don't want to preview too much of what's going to be in your report, Chairman, but I feel pretty good about the fact that a lot of what we're presenting is based on not just one or two people, but sort of this emerging theme, which is a collective assessment. So it means a lot.
Thank you, Trustee Davila. Trustee Esposito, anything further? Otherwise, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
No, I think I maybe I'm going to mention this, and it might be something that we think of down the end of, or as we put everything together, is that because of the volatility with the finances, not on our side, but on things that could get passed or things like that, that could affect us, that we should be at all times open if we need to have some type of an additional meeting or some type of an additional, I don't know if we need another committee, but I think open lines of communication, and if we had to meet on an emergent, I mean, you know how COVID was. I just think we need to be, if things come down, I'm so nervous about Pell, but I'm not afraid to say it. So just, we should be thinking about that. That if,
I think we're already on call, if I'm not mistaken, as the executive committee. If there's a need to meet between sessions, aren't we the ones that are called in to meet, or is it the full board?
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be let me just say, point well taken, Betty, and I think we will reiterate that as well at the meeting on the 23rd. It's unlikely we'll have great clarity at that point with
Right.
what's happening in Washington. I think it's a work in progress for quite some time. And I think as we go into the summer months, and I know the leadership team and Andrea is on the front lines of that, we'll be extremely prepared to react and respond, as is, while we're talking here for a moment, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, right? I mean, the state government, the governor, the legislature are obviously watching keenly and intently. Can't really act until there's something to react to. But I think, Betty, the admonition around Pell and some of the other components and some actualities that have happened with grant reductions, especially in the higher ed space, are worth watching very closely. So we will do that. And I think, again, this three-person ad hoc, the executive committee rather, will be well positioned to work with the president. And if it necessitates, I hope it doesn't, but if it necessitates a larger view of the board, I mean, they'll be prepared to deal with that too. So.
okay, thanks.
Okay. So with that, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
So move.
Oh,
Second.
And I think we've got to take a roll call. There's no discussion. You know how I feel about discussion on a motion to adjourn. It's not allowed in Robert's rules. Unless I wanted it to be, of course. You've got to call the roll, right? Because we're Zoomish.
Yes, I will. Mike Knappich,
Yes.
Will Davila,
Yes.
and Betty Esposito.
Yes.
Thank
Motion's
you.
been made, seconded, and voted on to adjourn. So I now move to adjourn. Now call an adjournment. The ad hoc committee's second meeting on the 2024-2025 presidential evaluation process. So thank you all for joining us, and look for emails from me. Thanks so much.